a ceasefire in the city's gang warfare still seems to be on. Ron Allen reports.
Since the truce among thousands of warring Crips and Bloods gang members declared as Los Angeles smoldered, most police have remained suspicious and openly skeptical that the daily gang killings would stop. But today, the deputy chief responsible for the city's most gang-infested neighborhood said he believes the truce is not only real, but holding.
Drive-by shootings, there are fewer of them than there has been in the past, and there are fewer homicides that are gang-related.
The 4 black gang-related murders since the riot, says Hunt, compare with 13 for the same period last year.
There is reason to be optimistic. However, that doesn't mean that we believe that everything is going to be 100%.
Hunt's assessment is considered important because many gang counselors believe the truce is a rare opportunity for peace and should be encouraged more. But so far, little has happened. Most city leaders have a wait-and-see attitude. Hunt's view has veered from LAPD's party line before. For example, he severely criticized the department for not doing enough to prepare for the riots. The best-known victim of that violence, Reginald Denny, took a turn for the worse last night. The trucker who was beaten senseless on live television is back in the hospital, suffering from a blood clot in his lung.
He's been doing so well, and he's just had it's a major setback.
Meanwhile, Willie Williams, who'll become police chief next month, is already here, trying to prevent anything like the riot from ever happening again.
We must recognize that only through a process of cooperation and unity will the wounds and sores begin to heal.
Carefully chosen words meant to calm passions in a city struggling to rebuild. Ron Allen, CBS News, Los Angeles.
Gang wars in Los Angeles claim hundreds of lives every year. Many of the victims are innocent bystanders. But as Ron Allen reports, the Rodney King verdict may change things.
There's talk of a truce in a war some thought might never end. LA's warring gangs, Bloods and Crips, some 100,000 strong, may turn their anger about the Rodney King verdict into peace.
If it don't happen now, it ain't gonna never happen.
The message rose through the smoke and flames, gang graffiti never seen before, a plea, a call for unity.
The riots helped because we realized that we now have a common enemy. For those brothers and sisters that were into it, right, that were into the gang conflicts and couldn't see a common enemy, now do.
Little Monster, a Crip leader, says he was there when the corner of Florence and Normandy erupted, a riot that he says also ignited a movement.
So you come together and what do? I mean, what's it about? What's the goal? What's the mission?
Empowering our community. That's what it's all about.
Some people think it's about violence.
No, it's not about violence.
There's been a lot of talk about trying to get some cops.
You know what? Whenever black folks get together, it's always something violent.
Hundreds of young people die each year. So is this the start of a street-level movement of well-armed, well-organized gang members, or just a fragile peace rooted in rage?
The King verdict laid down a revolution in the streets. Okay, the revolution is not over. The revolution won't be over until we get a reformation of the American government. Break it up, break it down, and do it right.
It's a possibility no one can ignore. Ron Allen, CBS News, Los Angeles.
Joining us live this morning from Los Angeles are Spud from the Bloods gang and Chop from the Crips. And behind them are Ced, Chop, and Chop's friend Dave Geary. Good morning. Thank you for joining us this morning. Spud, I'm going to start with you first. Explain to us how the whole idea of this truce came about.
Basically, it's just, it just started from after this incident with Rodney King. It just was a time for us to take advantage of this opportunity and just come as one and stop the senseless killing we've been doing, and just unite as one and, give some extracurricular activity to something positive, unite and do something right for once instead of negative.
Let's talk about that for a moment, Chop. Do you think this is going to work? And by that, I mean, do you think you're going to get total cooperation within these individual gangs?
Yeah, I think it's going to work, because everybody want it to work. This is what they've been looking for, and now it's happening, so they better make it work.
What do you think is the incentive for gang members to come together and try to have peace on the streets?
it's something that they wanted to do. That's why all their life they wanted to do it. We just been forced to kill each other because of the white man. White man been influencing us. They figured like we can't kill no white man because if something happened to a white man, we in jail. Anything happened. So we've been killing up each other. So that's the incentive now to get together and fight for another cause. The people that's really hurting us.
What is this cause you're talking about? What is the mission? Spud?
The mission is...
Or Chop, go ahead.
No, go ahead, Spud.
I mean, that's basically the mission is, you know what I'm saying, let's get fair. I mean, if you're going to crack down on drugs and crime, crack down on drugs and crime. Crack down on the ones who's doing the drugs and crime. If the gang members is doing it, do it. But, I mean, be fair about it. Don't come through just thinking that every man you see walking around with a different colored shirt is affiliated with gangs. I mean, just because he want to wear red or blue, you know, they automatically, and he's in a certain neighborhood, which may be highly drug infested. A man can't even walk to a store without being harassed by the police and beat and just treated less than human. I mean, all we want is, if you're going to do your job, do it fairly. Treat us like you treat the people in Simi Valley.
Dave, how do you think this is going to change the way the rest of the community, the non-gang members, are going to react to the Bloods and Crips? Are people going to buy this, that there is in fact a new mission? A mission free of violence?
Yes, I believe that other people in the community is going to pick up because they see that we as young black males are trying to do something for our community, and they can't help but hop on the bandwagon and join along with us. Because we're here to make a stand. It's going to stick.
Chop, one thing a lot of people continue to be troubled by is yesterday you all were handing out pamphlets that declared an open season on the Los Angeles Police Department. Is that basically saying it's not okay to kill innocent bystanders, but it is okay to wipe out a cop?
But see, I gotta say something now. You guys are getting that pamphlet and saying it was us. We was not giving pamphlets out saying kill the police. We're giving pamphlets out saying we need to stop this gang violence. We need to organize something where we focus on something else as far as, you know, getting new jobs, starting businesses, letting black people and gangs and Crips show that we can, you know, do what we want to do. We put our minds together and we go do it. See, you got a lot of people in the media trying to change it around, but that ain't what we about. We about unity for the black community, and that's it. That's what we going out for. We want all the gangs that's out there looking at us right now saying that, hey, we can do it in our hood. Wait, we got some beef with these brothers over here, but you know what I'm saying, it's been going on too long, so we got to stop. You know what I'm saying? We got to start here. We got to start now, and this is the beginning. It's like if you want to get to the top of that step, you got to start at the bottom.
Chop, I just got one very quick last question. Where did that pamphlet come from? Because people have seen it and read it. Do you know?
I don't know, man. I don't know what you're talking about, really. I don't know no pamphlet, and I ain't seen no pamphlet.
Is it fair for the police to just kill us because I'm a Blood or here Crip?
It came from L.A. I mean,
So
basically, we
that
from
make
the
us
Inglewood
over target?
area.
You're saying the pamphlet came from L.A. and not from the Inglewood
It came over that way. I mean, we ain't promoting that. We promoting something positive for our area, our community, for all areas, you know what I'm saying, as far as L.A., Compton-wise, whatever. But we basically in Inglewood, and as far as Inglewood and the Bloods, Center Park, and Crenshaw Mafia, Watergate, Crips, whoever, we just trying to unite for something. Let's apply our efforts to something positive for once instead of negative.
Well, we appreciate you're all joining us this morning. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Harry?
Really? Can you do it off of video monitor?
Will that preclude them from getting on bail? Because I heard they were going to
If I needed to make a couple stills, off of video for the class?
one of our
But you know what? I can't do bail. I don't do VHS. I don't have a play.
Under their container, should they make bail?
Playback unit and everything. Portable. Does that work? I mean, is the same connectors?
Will they even be able to do
recommending UCLA?
Now for the higher just a couple stuff. From the video, from the beta video, I have a beta player. And I can send the player and everything over the radio.
They won't even get out on the street. I don't know if we can make the easiest thing would be to give me a VHS copy. Do it that way. And then we can make
yeah, does that come out better?
But if you just like mail it,
Football and the other guy.
If I put it on a real high resolution.
Yeah.
I just got a copy of the complaint. I'll have copies after the
Mike, is there? So if they make bail, still they're going to be immediately charged with additional counts so that more bail set, right?
The arrangement is, procedure is, they won't actually begin their prosecution until we order any federal custody, and they have to make bail again in federal court.
Chance to bring it out.
Good morning. When charges were originally filed in this case, the allegation was made by some of the attorneys for some of the defendants who were charged that this beating by this mob and these defendants of Mr. Denny was somehow provoked by Mr. Denny by leaning out of the window of his truck and yelling provocative insults at the crowd. Well, these charges that we are filing today, involving a lot of other victims that were set upon, that were beaten, assaulted, and robbed by that mob, including these three defendants, will show just how preposterous that allegation is. Mr. Denny was not the only victim. He was just one among a great many people who were put upon by this crowd. And there was a pattern of malicious beatings and assaults and robberies engaged in not just by this mob, but by these three defendants. I'm going to go through some of these and give you an idea of just what these defendants and this mob were up to on that evening. Now, the first victim, Mr. Hirati, Williams, the defendant Williams, who is known by his gang name Football, throws a brick through the window. He reaches in the window. Mr. Hirati is dragged out of his car by others who are unidentified, and then he is robbed of that car. The other victim, Alicia Maldonado, Williams points at her car as if directing this mob toward her. And then he throws a brick himself at the car. Watson also throws a brick. An unidentified man reaches in and steals her purse, and then Miller here reaches and takes the purse from this unidentified man. And she drives off under a barrage of rocks from the rest of that mob. Then there was a car that went through a fire car, not a fire truck, but just a red car, a sedan, driven by Battalion Chief Terrence Manning and a firefighter by the name of Mathis. Williams throws a bottle through the front window, and the entire window shatters. And then Watson comes running up with an axe, and he embeds it in the top of the roof of that car, and the car is able to escape and get off. And then Fidel Lopez, he is pulled from his pickup truck by an unidentified man, or a number of men. And then he is beaten unconscious, and he is robbed. He's robbed of his wallet, he's robbed of his tools, and he's robbed of his truck. And while he is lying on the ground, unconscious, someone with a 2 foot by 1 foot stereo speaker picks it up over his head and hurls it at Mr. Lopez's head. And while Mr. Lopez is lying on the ground, unconscious, then Williams comes up to him with a spray can, a can of spray paint. And he starts spraying all over his body, and he pulls down his pants, and he starts spraying his genitals, and all over. And then pours some sort of liquid, whatever it may have been, all over Mr. Lopez. Now, I want to make a point here, and that is that this videotape, in this particular instance, involving Mr. Lopez, also shows that a minister came to his defense and literally put his body over him and said to that crowd, if you're going to kill him, you're going to have to kill me first. And he was able, one man, was able to turn that mob back. And much of this was captured on private videotape that was turned over to the television show Current Affair. And I want to thank them at this time for having made that available to us, because it's by going through frame by frame meticulously of this videotape that we're able to put together these cases, and particularly here with Mr. Lopez. Now, the other victim, Larry Tarvan, he was driving that white medical truck that we've all seen. Bricks, rocks, and bottles were thrown at his pickup truck. He was pulled out by the mob. And then Watson takes running stomps on 4 separate occasions on him while he is lying semi-conscious on the ground, and he suffers from that broken ribs. Then Williams picks up a fire extinguisher, and he throws it at him while he is lying on the ground, again semi-conscious. And then the truck is looted by an entire mob. And then another car comes through with 3 victims in it. Francisca Aragon, Marisa Behar, and Joshua Behar, who is 7 months old and was in the back seat. And that car is pelted with rocks and bricks. Miller leans in the car and he strikes the driver, Francisco, with a brick and says, "Give me your money," and strikes him in the face with a brick. Then Miller throws some sort of metal-covered phone book at Marissa, the woman in the car, and strikes her in the head, causing about 10 stitches. And then an unidentified person throws this large metal sign through the back window of the car, shattering the glass all over the 7-month-old child who was in the back seat, who suffered lacerations. And then finally, Alfonso Vaca. Manuel Vaca and Maria Vaca were in a car. And Miller throws a rock and knocks out the driver, Mr. Vaca, Manuel Vaca, while he is driving. And the driver, now unconscious, crashes the car into another vehicle. And the men and women are pulled out and beaten. Well, that's the whole sorry story. Oh, no, actually, it is not the whole sorry story. It is a part of it, but a very illustrative part of it. A good many other people were also beaten by this mob and these defendants. They are unidentified, and we are still with this task force, this joint federal local task force, meticulously going through the videotape frame by frame, trying to identify these people. But these additional victims here, these 12 additional victims, I think portray the picture very clearly. This attack on Mr. Denny, where he was beaten within an inch of his life, was not an isolated incident provoked by Mr. Denny. This was a mob led and participated in by these 3 defendants that was involved in a pattern of malicious attacks on everybody going through there, with finding Mr. Williams, the one known as Football, pointing out from time to time different vehicles that went by, and the mob would then turn upon them. In that sense, he was something of a leader or instigator of this mob. Thank you.
Your Honor, should this waylay any thought in the community that these were well-intentioned leaders of a rebellion in South Central Los Angeles?
Well, that disturbs me greatly. I'm not concerned about what defense attorneys for some of these defendants say. We come to expect that. But I must tell you, I am very concerned about the reaction of some of the media in dealing with this. In dealing with these criminals. They've been called thugs, and indeed they are thugs. People that were trying to kill other people, beaten some of them within an inch of their lives, to present them as somehow heroes. Read the other day a story in the Los Angeles Times on the front page that posed the question, are they heroes or are they thugs? I mean, good God, that is not a question to be posed on the front page of a responsible newspaper. They are not heroes. This is not a legitimate question. They are clearly what they are. and that is people who set upon others to try to rob them and beat them. And they beat a great many people and robbed a great many people. Now, I understand that there is such a compelling need right now for healing. And a lot of things are being overlooked. But I must say that some elements of the media have gone far, far too far. We have seen gang members appearing on television shows, from Phil Donahue to who knows what, where the gang members are being glorified, they are being lionized, they are being given stature and status within their own communities, which is absolutely the worst thing that we can do, because it holds them up as heroes and role models for young children who are not yet in gangs, who have somebody to look up to. And I saw something 2 days ago on the front page of the Times that I frankly, and I don't mean this rhetorically, I could not believe what I saw. I have a copy of it here, and I know all of you have seen this. It's become something of an infamous picture. Here it is. This has the smell of extortion all over it. You have a gangster sitting there with his face covered. It looks like he's going to rob a stagecoach. Indeed, what he is doing is nothing but a protection racket. Now, the Times calls that, and headlines it, conciliation. I understand, and I mean this, I understand the need to try in many ways to have healing. But that doesn't mean that you abandon all common sense. It doesn't mean that you abandon your entire critical faculties. Think what it means for a 10-year-old black child growing up in the inner city to see this picture and to have it repeated on television. You're not seeing a picture of a school teacher in South Central Los Angeles. These kids, these 10-year-old kids, are now told in ways that can never be contradicted that the real power in their community are the gangsters. They're not the teachers. They're not the legitimate people that work for a living. They're not the glue that holds a community together. The real power, the real status, the people with real stature in that community are the gangsters, because they're the ones that are on the front page of the newspaper. They're the ones that get to be interviewed on television. They're the ones that are held up and indeed glorified. I don't know where common sense has gone. These people are simply gangsters. And yes, we are all happy that there is a truce, and for the moment they have stopped killing each other. But that doesn't mean that we take something that is nothing but extortion, we take something that is nothing but an old-fashioned protection racket, and then call it conciliation. What this story should have said, Korean businessmen, no longer willing to count on the police for protection, now are going to buy protection from the gangsters by paying them off. That's what the story should have said. It should not have said conciliation. It should not have held up these gangsters as legitimate people. They are not legitimate people.
Mr. Honor, I'd like to clear up some confusion, I guess, appears on your press release in terms of the number of additional charges filed in this amended complaint.
Yes.
The front page, the press release says there are 36. The back page says there are 37. I'm just wondering if you could tell us what the exact number is.
I think it's 37. I don't know. It must be a misprint where it says 36. 37.
Mr. Reiner,
What kind of bail will you be asking for?
Well, there are additional charges, so the court will have to take that into consideration to determine what the appropriate bail is going to be. The recommendation that we make on bail we're going to make in court, but because there are additional charges, additional bail would be appropriate.
Mr. Reiner, could you talk about the gang association? Is there at least two, you say, that are connected to these very dangerous gangs, these charges?
On these three? Well, all three of them are members of the 8-Tray Gangster Crips, a very violent and dangerous, indeed homicidal gang in Los Angeles. Two of them are active members. One of them is indicated as a less active member. But all three of them are members of that same 8-Tray Gangster Crips.
Mr. Reiner, you said most of this evidence was captured on tape. Why do you think you're going to have any more success with this tape than you have with the Rodney King tape?
Your question
My question is direct to you.
Well, I understand that. I didn't see anybody else up here. This tape indicates very clearly the conduct that occurred, and I would expect that any reasonable trier of fact looking at Mr. Williams celebrating having almost killed somebody would understand very well that he is guilty of a crime there of assault at the very least.
Mr. Reiner, the elections are coming up shortly. Did politics play any part
No, of course
in the
not.
decision?
Mr. Reiner, the media aside for a moment.
Yes.
I mean, I can't tell you how many calls we had at Channel 11 as soon as these charges came down against the Denny perpetrators, of people in the community that drew parallels right away between this and the police officers, and it wasn't really the media that set that up. I mean, it was a current running through that community.
Let me respond to your question in two ways. That's an entirely separate question about attitudes toward these particular defendants, and the question of taking somebody like this, who is involved in a stick-up, if you will, and portraying it differently. There's nothing wrong with doing the story. Indeed, there's nothing wrong with this picture, had it been presented properly. Had they said, here is a picture of somebody being held up, let's talk about it, write about it. Instead of putting this picture in and saying, isn't this nice? This is conciliation. It is nothing of the sort. Now, your other part of your question. There have been reactions by many people who are reeling from embarrassment. And I understand that in the black community, that they see what has gone on. They have great pain from what happened in the King case and the injustice of that verdict. Then they see this, and this is incredibly, excruciatingly embarrassing, and then charges are brought here, and I understand viscerally their reaction by saying, why? The answer is, these are vicious crimes, and they must be prosecuted. What in the world would anybody suggest? That we look the other way, and there are people that have said that we look the other way and see these efforts at what amount to attempted murder in some cases, and not file charges? I mean, what a preposterous notion that is. Of course charges must be prosecuted.
And you would not draw any parallel?
No, of course not.
Between this and the 4 LAPD officers?
There are lots of cases that are filed.
People are doing
yes.
that.
Well, that people are doing it for all kinds of reasons. Visceral, emotional, whatever their reasons may be, doesn't make it so. That is one case, this is another. Whether one case is prosecuted has nothing to do with whether another case is prosecuted. Understand, we obviously did prosecute the officers in the King case. And whether a jury returns a verdict of guilty or not guilty, bears not at all, in no way, shape, or form, unless somebody can suggest to me how it should, as to whether these people ought to be charged with crimes and prosecuted.
Despite your earlier comments, can you tell us whether Mr. Denny has been pointedly asked whether he haunted anyone on that street and what his response was?
We have interviewed a great many people. We're not going to give out those interviews. I will tell you this, absolutely not. He did not.
He did not? You say he did not?
Did he tell you that, Mr. Reiner?
I'm sorry.
Did you say Denny did not provoke in any way, under those circumstances, an attack on him by calling people niggers and that sort of thing?
Absolutely.
He did not, you say?
That's what I said. He absolutely did not.
Did he say that in interviews with your office, Mr. Reiner?
Plan to
Sorry?
testify in the trial when it comes up? Any of these victims, including Reginald Denny, plan to testify against these people?
Undoubtedly, yes, of course.
If he did,
How are you so sure that he did not didn't say anything or do anything?
Look, I'm going to answer your question this way. 'Cause I'm not going to buy into that. I mean, what a preposterous notion, and how preposterous it is, not just to ask the question, but then to buy into it, and to get your teeth into it, and to act like you're dealing with a real issue instead of some preposterous notion. This is not one isolated case of one motorist driving through that intersection. You have seen it as well as everybody else. The fact of the matter is that every single person that went through that intersection was assaulted by that mob. Now, what is it that is being suggested? That every single person, the woman that was dragged from her car and beaten unconscious, first rolled down her window and yelled out an insult, that every single person that went through that intersection, and it involved dozens of people who were pelted with rocks and bricks and had their windows knocked out, who were robbed, that all of these people, seeing a violent mob tearing people apart, rolled down their window and said, "Hey, you," and shouted an insult, only to get beaten up, and the next person through the intersection did the same thing. All these people that may have run into the dozens, I mean, cut it out. The fact of the matter is, this was a mob out of control, or maybe in some ways under control, but this was a mob out there involved in a pattern a clear and deliberate pattern of malicious beating and assaults and robberies. And for someone to suggest, as a defense attorney does, well, my client only did this because this one person provoked him by shouting an insult, on its face is what I said it was. Preposterous.
Is verbal taunts a legal defense?
Pardon?
Is verbal taunts
No,
a
of course
legal
not.
defense?
No, it is not, but that's not the point.
Just one more. Is he posting bail of $1.5 million today? Will the new charges keep him in the slab?
Well, the bail is not $1.5 million, and the court may impose additional bail because of additional charges, and whether they post it remains to be seen.
Mr. Ryan, I have one more question. You said that the task force
Oh, I knocked somebody's mics down. Come on in. Everybody should be back in the back. Come on. Uh-oh, something happened here. Somebody's mics are down, see that? Yeah. Gravity related problem.
Yeah, that's what happens when you get all these guys putting 1,001 on my gooseneck.
One or two more. Send one or two more.
We need Bud gotta come.
Hey, Don. Yeah. Come on, man. Okay, we're gonna start. Okay.
We can't start yet. We can't start.
Why?
Because we missing one. Bud, she coming over
Where's
here.
that? Where's that?
She.
Oh, okay.
She would just walk across the street. She coming right near.
Okay.
Give me 1 second.
You wait.
Thank you.
Yeah, we wait. Yeah.
Everybody throw it up like this one time. What's she doing?
On the phone.
She on the phone.
She coming in.
Grab her off the phone. We can get the
Okay, but
get
they
go.
still
Okay.
Yes, we got another thing. We got to
Yeah.
Is that it? You gotta come over here.
Come on. We'd like to thank the media for coming out for this positive event today. First of all, we'd like to open up in honor of our co-worker, Anna Lizarraga, who was tragically murdered last night. And I want to say to the media, we will not be fielding any questions regarding that our executive offices will be handling questions regarding the media. My name is Ed Turley. I'm the Target Area Manager for Community Youth Gang Services. And I'd like to bring up our Director of Field Operations, Mr. Charles Norman, who will be explaining the purpose for here today.
Good morning again. Thank you for coming out. Our purpose for being here today is very simple. We are here to, first of all, allow some young men and women from this community who we sincerely feel has made a concerted effort for peace, that they are coming together, bonding together, so that we can live peacefully in this community together. We are convinced that that is true, real, and we simply want to be here as a support for them in this effort. We also want to let you know that one of the things we're going to be able to do starting today is kick off a work program to clean up their community. We will be able to employ a few of the youngsters from that community starting today. With that, I want the highlight of us being here today to take place, and that is we want to hear from the young people themselves so that they can put to rest what everybody think about this bonding, this peace agreement among young people from this community. And with that, first of all, we want to bring up Mr. Anthony Lamont Deal. Mr. Deal.
How are you? My name is Anthony. Yeah, my name is Anthony. How's everybody out there in the world? Yeah, we just, we really on a positive tip now, you know what I'm saying? We've been doing wrong for so long, it's time to do right, And we just want everybody out there to know, you know what I'm saying, just come down, give us your support, all the brothers and sisters out there, just come down, like Sunday. Come to the park, you know what I'm saying, on 51st and Avalon, and check us out for yourself. You can see everything you want to see, you know what I'm saying? And if this, if this gonna really go somewhere, we need support from not just, the black way. We need support from all races, you know what I'm saying? We want to do something, and then just give us a chance. That's all. We just want a chance. That's all.
Amen. Oh, well. Mr. Charles Rachel. Go.
Hello world, everybody, homies out there, even the homies we got incarcerated that's looking from the inside out here. This is what's happening out here, man. We're not joking, we're not jiving. Y'all know that coming straight from the heart. Look who's standing there. Look what's been going on out here. I was like to open it saying, we as the Bloods and the Crips have joined together without any problems from the police, the media, and the Bloods as Crips as one. We'll be able to give back to the parks, recreation, and the rest of the community can live without, so that the community can live without fear. We would like to go to speak to schools, parks, to the whole community, businesses, and everybody to let them know, let our younger generation know that we're coming together to lead those who would have been going astray, and we're going to lead them now to the right direction. We want to have peace in the black community, not only in gangs, but the whole community. We would clean up the trash and the graffiti in the community. We prove to the media, the police, and everyone else that we are not an outcast and we are not out to do no wrong. Right. We need more education, more career training, so that we can get more blacks jobs to make a living without dealing drugs and stealing. We need more teachers who are patient, reliable, hard workers, and who are willing to take out the time to spend with the kids that's ready to learn in the community. We got youngsters out here you think is wild and crazy. Them youngsters just as smart as all of us. I'm saying we all is one in the body coming from the Lord.
Come on, right.
But like I say, we want to give our special spiritual thanks to God Almighty for giving us His faith, love, and strength and progress together as a community. Not as a gang, as a community. Society labeled the name gang. We didn't grow up out the house as word gang. We grew up as children. We grew up to be men and teenagers. Society labeled that gang. Now society labeled us as a community. We're a part of the community just as well. We also give thanks to Charles Norman, Lonnie Wilson, Ed Turley, and Sean, who's been driving us around. I don't see him out right now. He's been really taking us around. We give special thanks to him. And the rest of the community youth gang service for working with us, as well as the community. We also, along, give special thanks to some professional football players that came out and hung out with us last night. You know what I'm saying? Stayed with us for a while. Didn't even want to leave us. Their car left from there. They stayed there with us. for 2 or 3 hours. Now, I would like to get that thanks to Todd Light from the LA Rams, number 41, Robert Bailey, number 28 of the LA Rams, Tony Smith of the Kansas City Chiefs, and Tony Brooks of the Philadelphia Eagles for coming into our community and spending time in our community with us, along with Rodney T. And the lady that brought him out, Jackie, that worked for Newport. We as a whole community, we invite all the black businesses and owners to come out and set up booths in our park and enjoy this wonderful gift we're about to open. But most of all, we like to give our reverend that we attend his church at Mount Zion, Reverend Z. Hill, the love and the prayer that he had prayed with us together to get us this far in the faith that we have, spiritually in the house of the Lord. You know, and we got one of our peoples that got shot trying to cause a goodness thing. You know what I'm saying? We're not tripping off of that. We still want the good. We're not being provoked by that. But we want him to know, as he's in the hospital or wherever he's laying and looking at this here, we still got this here together. We're not changing our thoughts, and he know that. As well as we want the homies inside there to know, the system to know, we ain't forgot y'all. Yeah. Y'all gonna see packages coming. We can promise y'all that now. Only we can promise y'all got packages coming. Just be patient with us and get yourself strong up in there. That's all we ask of y'all out here. We as a community gonna work with the community to get it right. You know where it's coming from. Y'all hearts and our heart, we know what's popping.
My name is E.V. Hill. I'm pastor of the Mount Zion Missionary Baptist Church, vice president of the National Baptist Convention, which represents about 8 million people. Number one, I have come here in acknowledgement that you're probably looking at some of the most organized and influential leaders of our community. Yes. They have proven that, every one of you, even you in the media. Without their assurance that you'd be all right here today, a lot of you wouldn't have been here. But they are some of the most organized, and they have our young people, they have our community, and we have to acknowledge that. Number two, I have come to say that I believe in them, and they have my support, and my support means something. And it means something in this community, it means something to our churches and our political community. And so I believe them. I preach what they have said. Now, they have done 3 things that you can't hardly find even among grown-ups in this community. Number one, they have recognized the error of their ways. Yes. They said we were led in the wrong direction. Now that's a whole lot to admit. A whole lot of folks, a whole lot of politicians won't admit the errors of their ways. Second of all, they have apologized to one another and said we're gonna love one another. Right. Now that's something that's in the book. Love ye one another. And thirdly, they say we want to make amends. We want to free up the community, free up the parks, let the children run and play like their mothers did. Let the people come out and enjoy themselves. And then let's get to work and clean up the community, because we live here. We don't want to live in no place that looks like a hog pen. We're decent people. We're clean people. Right. And we're going to clean up and we're going to live together. And as one of the churchmen in the community, we're going to do everything we can help. That's from here to the ends of the earth. We're going to be behind them. And so E.V. Hill is here. You can put it on record. I'm here present. I'm not afraid. I'm not uncomfortable, because I myself was a teenager once. My son doesn't believe it, but I was a teenager once, and I did wrong. And somebody hung in there and helped me get right. And one of the greatest things that has ever happened in our community that ought to be front line on everything we have is what's happening right here today. Young people, teenagers and young men who have fought and killed, and women have fought and killed each other, have said it is wrong, it has to stop. We can stop it, we're going to stop it, and we're going to rebuild our community, and it's going to be beautiful and safe.
We know that this bundling cannot survive without support. We know that we are going to need some career training. We know we're going to need some education assistance. we know we're going to need some jobs, and we really appealing to you for that. We do have some support that's here today. We have several attorneys here. Attorney Heather Miller is in the audience there, and we have Attorney Jimmy Williams, who have already started bringing in some resources to help these young people. I want Attorney Williams to briefly run down some of the planning from his attorney's office to help us. Attorney Williams.
My name is Jimmy Williams. You know, there's an ancient African utterance. It was spoken about 2500 BC, which goes that the wise wake early to establish themselves, but the fool always fails to rise at the opportune time. Community Youth Gang Services and the Black American Political Association of California is hearing this message. We are hearing the message of peace, and we are hearing the cry for opportunity. So we are wisely seeking to take advantage of this opportune time. We are now putting into motion programs to specifically address the urban ills which have affected this community. Today, I am proud to announce, on behalf of the Black American Political Association of California and Community Youth Gang Services, Project Arch. After rebellion comes hope. This is a program which is specifically designed to rededicate our collective energies to solve and address the concerns of this community. We will change the basic assumptions that have been existent within this community. We will reorganize our efforts, and we will redefine our focus for our project priorities. We are establishing an educational program, an educational supplement. We are specifically bringing in business leaders. We are specifically bringing in teachers to help our community learn of these community members. You can't just talk and say, well, let's give them peace and then let them go about their way. You have to give economic opportunity to allow these individuals to prosper within society. We'll be working with Community Youth Gang Services with their job training program. We're here to get along. Thank you for that time.
All right. Number of dollars. And we are appealing to the city to make sure that they fund this work program, that they fund some training program for these young people and young people throughout this city. We also know that a lot of the youngsters have some problems with drugs and substance. And we have Mr. Michael Wynn from the Drug Coalition present here who's standing with us, and we're going to be working on that end. We also have the executive director here, Mrs. Ware, from the Youth Opportunity Unlimited program, where they have computers, where they have a literacy training, and we're going to get these young people in there. We're going to get our young men and young women in there and get them trained at the YOU. So it's already some things in place. All we've been waiting on, all we've been praying for is the